Well, that's very nice of you. No, it's every once in a while, Dr. Tim will talk about how if somebody asks you who you are and you launch into this thing about how you are a being of light and love and so forth, it isn't that I doubt that, or in my best hope I'm not aspiring to that. But I thought of an analogy after Dr. Tim hung up. I have a cousin on the Bingham side who posts these religious, he's like a Pharisee. He talks about if you don't do this or you don't do that, you're going to go to hell type of thing. And he's putting out his beliefs. And oftentimes they're not that harsh, but they're painting a picture of him that I would say, I don't want to even put a like or an acknowledgement of having read that. I'm going to sneak by that one. I'll let him do what he's doing, but I hope I don't have to talk to him anytime. He lives far away, and we don't even know each other. But this kind of speaking I would imagine, would invite someone else to want to run screaming. And I have no interest in sending people running screaming. I'd really like to find common ground and build from there. We might get to a point in the future where we can talk to one another about these things. But anyway, in a way, it's a silly conversation, because what Dr. Tim has read in the Way of Mastery and what he says, I believe all that. But I wouldn't trot it out in an inappropriate or culturally unconducive situation. So that's it. And I know he understood that too. I don't know why we just went at it the way we did, but I'm not going out and telling somebody I'm a being of light and love right off the bat. Are you still there?
We hear loud and clear.
Oh, good. I thought I lost you somewhere in there.
I remember years ago, and you've heard me tell this story before, but there's a young man who was former military who became engaged in work through his girlfriend. His friend had actually brought him to a Y workshop without even knowing what he was coming to. And as it turned out, he had parked in the driveway and his car was blocked in, and she introduced us. She'd been to the workshop before. She introduced us, and he asked me how I was doing, and I said, kind of one of my standard lines, is blessed and highly favored. And he had just come out of the military. He actually, one of the things that kind of got him engaged and interested in coming to hear something other than what he had believed was that a short time, I don't know exactly what the time frame was before, he was a pretty heavy drinker, and he'd gotten drunk, and fortunately the rope broke. He tried to hang himself. So he came from a different place. And so when I said that, he just rolled his eyes, and within 2 minutes of me beginning the presentation, he just walked out of the room. And his car was blocked in, so he couldn't leave. And I followed him out of the room to the car, and afterward, we ended up becoming pretty close friends. But afterward, he shared with me that he sat in the car and saw me coming in the mirror, and he said, "Does this guy know who I am? I could kill him with one punch." Anyway, he ended up teaching this work in South Florida, over a period of years. But at some point later, he texted me one day. He said, "Oh my God, I'm channeling Michael Rice. Somebody asked me how I was, and I said blessed and highly favored."
All right.
So you never know what's going to grow.
Yeah.
But I certainly hear you loud and clear. When something somebody offers is clearly fake, and probably wishful thinking, which a lot of us do. But living up to it is sometimes quite a challenge.
That it's fake. It doesn't mean that it's fake. It's just it wouldn't work right then. It isn't it's like a kind of lack of sensitivity. That's an insult, I know, and you could do that within the context of your workshop. But I'm talking about in the regular marketplace where certain things are expected. Hey, you know, how are you? I'm highly blessed. I just wouldn't say that in a shopping mall unless I knew the person, and it doesn't mean I don't believe it. Anyway, this is an unnecessary fight because I'm sure you're perfectly sensitive about what can be done and what can't in certain circumstances.
Yay. I'm with you. Anything else exciting happening in your world?
Oh, a ton of things. Yeah.
How's the conversation going with your nephew? Us? We have a new grandbaby coming, so that's pretty exciting. We're still contemplating how we're going to rearrange the house to make sense. I actually was stopped at a store this morning. I texted Jeannie a picture. They had a picture of one of these metal dog cages, and I jokingly took a picture of it, or they had a dog cage for sale. I took a picture. I said, should I bring this home for the new baby? And she sneered at me. So that's pretty exciting.
When's the baby due?
Late August, early September. My guess is it's going to be the latter part of August. Her due date's actually the first week of September.
Wow. That's exciting,
so that's pretty
Grandpa.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, our asparagus is coming up. We got our first asparagus bed. We got our asparagus bed opened yesterday and mulched, and that's pretty exciting. And this morning I looked out the window, and there's a cat. A cat I haven't seen in the neighborhood before. And, you know, we got this big backyard and all. And where's the cat walking? Right up the middle of the newly prepared bed. It's like, what are you doing?
Oh, my God.
But anyway.
Oh, that's nice. I saw pictures on Facebook. It looks beautiful. You're just ahead of us. We're not ready quite to put our stuff out yet. Got it in the sun porch.
We've got a 25-degree night coming up next week, so we decided with the amount of heat to get the asparagus going, we would go ahead and then we've got 2 nights, one's going down to 25 and one's going down to 26, so we're just going to cover the beds for those 2 nights. Right. But otherwise, it's looking like maybe winter's over here in the Virginia area, Southern Virginia.
Nice.
Yes.
That's good. So it's my grandson, and
I'm said nephew. I know it's your grandson. Yeah.
No, that's all right. Why should you remember all these relatives? You knew he was an important person. I have blocked him from Facebook. I haven't heard a word. When he posts something on TikTok, I don't have TikTok, but it comes through my email. Somehow I get it. Maybe he sends it. I just delete it. I'm not even looking at it. And he is being horrible to his mother. She's afraid. We talked about this before, but now it's come to the point where Tim and I and she and her husband are not going to his graduation, which seems so harsh, but
that's sad.
He is.
Yeah.
It's awful, and he's terrified. I know he's terrified that he can't take care of himself, and he's yelling, "You're making me homeless." But then I mean, I've thought of printing. You've seen some of the text early on when he was going psychotic.
Yeah.
This is no different. And yet he insists he's not psychotic. He's doing well in his courses, and we are just the worst people. We're demonic. We are Satan. He calls us the aliens. So we're having nothing to do with him, and it's a relief in the short run not to be attacked all the time, even though the tools, I've stayed pretty balanced, even though Dr. Tim suggested I just send him love and blessings, and picture him well. I do that a lot. And that's pretty much where it's at, but we have no idea where this is landing, or the only thing we've offered him is we will support you financially if you will go into rehab for weed and alcohol. And he yells back, I'm not addicted. It's none of your business. I'm 21 years old. And then we say, okay, that's fine, but we're not giving any money. And then he goes into his tailspin again about how horrible we are. Michael, I listened to a video about psychopathology, a psychopath, and he fits the picture of a total psychopath. Now, I know we're not supposed to label people, but he is acting like this description. So that's where we're at with that. Tim and I are just completely flummoxed, and we're busy with our Michael. We set a deadline of June 1st for him to be out of here. I thought that might get him going a bit.
Motivated.
And what?
It might get him motivated.
Yeah, and it might have, but the wait lists are horrendous. He's number 14 on the most promising list. Number 14 for housing in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is 20 minutes from here. I don't know what that means. It depends on how many people die, you know.
Right.
And we went to a social worker the other day, Tim and I, and he went together. And maybe I told you this, his stipulations, well, I can't do elevators, and I need to be on the first floor. And of course, they're just going to write him off because they've got so many people who will take anything they can get.
Yeah.
So when the social workers heard this, he just looked at us and said, why don't you set a departure date? And that'd probably be the most useful thing. He didn't fight with him, but he just said, I guess this is what we need here.
Yeah.
And
well, tell Michael we said hello and send our love.
Okay, thank you.
And blessings. And I just sent Jacob a note saying hello. Maybe he'll hear something from someone else. We'll just hold the space. And I think as far as labeling goes, I think if as opposed to labeling, which when I hear people saying don't label people, that it's more like we're going to buy in wholesale here, but I think that being able to acknowledge if something's true, that it's true, is a really important part of being able to heal as well. Be able to see past what's true, but to acknowledge if that's what needs to be dealt with, then we have a way or a sense of how to go ahead about dealing with it. So we'll certainly join you in holding the space for him.
Thanks. All
Tough
right,
place
we'll
for
carry
all
on.
to be in. All right, young lady, we appreciate you. Blessings.
Blessings.
All right, bye-bye. Miss Jeannie, you've got another hand up, I understand.
We actually have 3 more hands up. One of them I don't recognize the phone number, but it's 618. You are on the air. Who do we have?
This is Camie.
Oh, hey there, young lady. How are you?
Hey. I am wonderful. So in steps Camie energy. And I am playing in technology. And so I've got all this really light technology air that I'm playing in. And I got a new Galaxy, the new Galaxy. And I'm switching from iPhone to the new Galaxy, so I'm having to learn the Android platform again.
A whole different thing, right?
Yes. And as I am setting up the AI, because I'm doing it very intently,
right.
All of the technology is coming together to where I'm going to have this amazing AI. And in the process, I'm building the brain cells to be able to use it appropriately. And it is the most beautiful energy, Michael, I've ever experienced in this life. It's just so light and breezy, and I'm still going to the chiropractor, drinking cayenne and lemon juice, and the energy is moving so fast, I'm having to breathe deep breath every 15 minutes. And then about every half hour, I'm stopping and doing about 5 deep breaths. I am then moving to a place where I do still point breathing, and that increases my vitality even more. And then I'm playing in higher and higher energy as this process is going on. It is amazing. I have stepped completely out of my trauma and drama energy that I've been stuck in for my entire life.
Congratulations.
And it is, Michael, it's so beautiful. I took this AI to the point that I decided I've never friended anybody on Facebook that I haven't met in person or I played games with online. And I decided to go ahead and friend all of my friend suggestions. And people are coming out of the woodwork to support us. All of us.
Sweet.
Matt's sitting here too. So to support me, everybody else on the call, Matthew, and it's just beautiful. So we're going to Chiropractor today.
Congratulations to both of you.
Point breathing. We're doing major pain management with, we got a massage and heat chair and a jacuzzi tub, and moving back and forth to that to where that we can function physically some to straighten out and organize. We've decided to move back to Southeast Missouri. And the vision that I see there now, I used to just see this old dilapidated $80,000 house we bought 5 years ago. That was all I saw. The images are online. I posted it on Facebook if you want to look at it. And now I'm getting ready to refinance that, and it's worth about $240 instead of $80 in 5 years. I'm going to take an equity loan out on that, pay off all of my debt, and then with our annual income, with the pain management, the mental health management, the thought disorder management, and building this house, I now see a vision prettier, more beautiful with that place than I ever saw when we first bought it. It's got drainage problems. It's in the woods. It's up by a spring, 2 miles
so you've
from
got some
a
work
spring,
to do.
and it's 3 acres in the woods. And the landscape
Very cool.
needs to all be fixed, where we're going to build this pond to fix the drainage system. And we've got the woods all cleared out like a park-like setting. We're going to dethatch it and plant grass all in there. That yard is going to be absolutely gorgeous with this beautiful log front home that has humongous rooms. And that's going to be at least $1 million property in another 5 years. So my $80,000 seed money that I got from the seed money my mom gave me $7,000 when I was 28, and I did my first rehab. And that was my seed money to buy all these houses and rehab them over the years, go down to Heartland and do a little bit of work there. And it's just creating such a beautiful life for us.
Awesome.
It is
holding
miraculous.
the space for that, and I'll put in one piece of information. I'll send you a link to our page, and one of the things I'll invite you to consider, because this country is in trouble because native species plants are being destroyed, and one of the things that's destroying them is invasive species, chemical consumption, water consumption, lawns, where native species supports native growth and native plants and native insects that are needed for our food supply. So I'll send you a link to that, and that might give you a different way to look at what you do with your acreage.
Yeah. So what I hear you
We've
saying
gotten rid
is
here of about a third. We've gotten rid of about a third of our lawn here, and it's now native species plants. So the explanation of what we've done and why we've done it, and links to all kinds of information are there. So you might find that useful.
Yes, absolutely. So what you're saying, what I'm getting from this, is we just need to mow it all down, dethatch it, and let it grow back, and we'll have a beautiful pollinator garden. We've already got a bunch of native plants out there started.
Perfect.
So if we go and dethatch it, it will be 3 acres of a pollinator garden.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? And then we're going to raise bees.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, Michael.
Cool.
Thank you so much
and you might,
for that.
You might, do some research on the plants. I know that, like for instance, Jeannie's dad had a 160-acre farm about an hour and a half from here, and when we started our native species garden, we thought, well, we'll go harvest some plants from there. And it's out like in a very, very rural area. And we only found about 3 native species plants on that acreage. Everything else was invasive. It's like the country's being taken over by invasive species.
App.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Perfect.
I've got that
Perfect.
plant identifier app. I can get it from that, and we will have 3 acres of beautiful pollinator garden. That is amazing.
Sweet. Sweet.
But to let you get on with the show, I do have one question that I wanted to ask you, and that's if you would share with me a video of your current home. I know that's invasive, so if you're not willing to do that, I totally get it, but I want to be able to picture you where you're actually at instead of just what I have in my brain, the image I have in my brain of you.
Well, when I send you this link, we've got pictures of the house and the gardens and us in it, so you'll have our whole setup.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. I love you. I mean, love to you. Blessings. All
right.
And let's move on with the show. Thanks.
Delight to hear that you're shifting into higher and higher gear, both of you. Lots of love to both of you. Blessings.
Oh, my gosh. You too, and Jeannie too.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Miss Jeannie, you've got somebody else with a hand up.
I do. The next one, I believe, is Ann 760. You're on the air.
Hi. Yeah, it is.
Hey, young lady, we haven't heard your voice in a long time. Welcome.
Thank you. I was actually going to respond to Susan call because I caught the last 15 minutes of her and Dr. Tim and his great laugh and laughter and the stuff that was going on. And they kept saying to keep it simple. So my thought to her was, well, because of what he was suggesting saying was a little more involved in using the way of mastery and things like that. And I go, well, why couldn't we just say, if the question was, who am I? So I think there was a matter of semantics, and I don't know, Susan, you can, just throwing this out to you, but because if somebody's going to ask me who I am, well, I'm a child of God. That's it, And my name is, because the other day I was going to answer the phone, and I said, my name is, and I go, that's what my name is, but that isn't who I am. And I thought, okay, but if I respond, if somebody asks me, who are you? And I go, well, I'm a child of God. And my name is blah, 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 blah. So anyway, that was all I was going to say for her. To me, that was making it more simple, which is what I was getting from Dr. Tim. You can, simplify the answer to somebody's question as well. Anyway, that's all
I'm glad it stirred up so much interest.
Yeah, but I love his laughter, and I was laughing with him and with her, and so I'm grateful, she knows how to take his laughter as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, so it was great. Anyway, I am moving on with my engagement, my relationship, and we set a wedding date for June 9th. So,
wow, congratulations.
I know. Thank you. And this has been, different because of the work I've done or not done, over the years. And I'm still, triggered to do work. But before it would be relationships that triggered the negative, and now this relationship triggers the positive. for me to still continue my work. I mean, you know, but so anyway, yeah, just knowing, and we're working through a book that doing some coaching with the pastor, and it's called Love and Respect by Dr. Eckridge. And the thing is, it's a guideline, and so we can agree or disagree. But it's just great. Nice. It brings up things that you all bring up in your tools, and so it's just a reminder of, you know, I already have that tool in place, or, you know, wow, I wouldn't think of saying that to him, because the doctor, he uses in his book and in the workbook that we're working through, examples of how people talk to each other. And I go, okay, that used to be, but it's not anymore. So it's been a great confirmation of where I was and where I am now and where I still have to go. So anyway, it's exciting.
Well, that's awesome. I had no idea that was happening for you. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. And we hold the space of love for both of you.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate all you love and just the things that I think, mostly the transparency that you and Dr. Tim bring to this show. And actually, and I see that happening in our pastor, because he's like in his 30s. And it's like, you know, at some other point in my life, I would have said, I want this 30-year-old telling me or suggesting things. No, not at all. That's not about it. He's transparent with his relationship, you know, even going through seminary and just different stuff. And it's like, that's right in line with what you and Dr. Tim do. When you're transparent, I, anyway, can speak for myself that makes it real, that, you know, you're still using the tools, and that's just a great example. So I appreciate that. And sending love to you guys as well. Thanks.
Received. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Blessings.
All right. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye. Well, that's exciting news. And Miss Jeannie, do we have one more hand up?
We actually have two more hands up, but the next one is a voice from our past. Miss Terry, 817, you're on the air.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Hello, Dr. Michael.
Welcome.
I have several things on my mind this morning, but I just want to run some things by you and get your feedback on them.
Let's go for it.
First thing that I want to ask you about, my carbon-based memory or mind or brain is always going to be perceiving what is missing, absent, or wrong.
Are you saying that as a question, or tell me more about what you mean by that?
Well, the opposite of that would be nothing is missing, wrong, or bad ever. That what's happening is supposed to be happening exactly the way it's happening.
Okay. So I'm not quite catching where you want to head with this, or what you're looking for support in with this.
Okay. The way that life is showing up is simply my opportunity in each and every moment to affirm or agree that a loving thought is true, and change my perception. So when something negative shows up, like a negative emotion or something where I perceive that something should be different from the way it is,
right?
That is itself my opportunity to investigate.
It's an invitation. And your mind may be right. Something maybe could be much higher or better than it is, and the mind gives the invitation, and maybe the invitation doesn't come in the form of a loving thought. However, if I'm living out of being, out of the original created state of love of who I am, I always have the power to introduce a loving thought. And that begins as I more and more bring that active presence of love into my mind and into my physiology, then the root of the negative begins dissolution, begins to dissolve. Literally a change, a transmutation of energy. You know, when we think of sun, you know, there's a puddle of water on the ground and the sun hits it. You know, if it's dark and chilly, that puddle of water might be there for months. But if the sun comes out, there's a change of energy, a transmutation. It steps up the atomic motion, the molecular motion in those water molecules, and all of a sudden they change form. It's exactly the same when I can bring, if there's something in my history, something in my carbon-based memory that's based in some sort of fear or hostility, whatever the variation on the theme is, if I can bring the active presence of love, it is that which begins to change the energetic pattern of the negative and dissolve the negative. And that would be a proper understanding of the Aramaic word of forgiveness.
Okay, so that leads to, thank you for that. That leads to my next question. When this negative thing comes up, would going to affirmative prayer be, okay, so I've been looking at some Thomas Troward and some Ernest Holmes and Emma Curtis Hopkins, and her denials come to mind. Or forgiveness. I mean, is there a...
Well, my input would be this. If there's some sort of what we would call a negative or an energy pattern moving in me that is not life-supporting, that does not support me functioning truly as who I am as love, for me, the first step is for me to acknowledge that there it is. This is not life-supporting. And so what I want to do is I want to remove it. I want to literally utilize the tools that remove that energy from my structure. You know, if I've got a house and I open the door and I see there are cockroaches in it, denying that there are cockroaches in the house isn't going to make the cockroaches go away. Pretending there are no cockroaches in the house isn't going to make it. Putting down new carpet and covering all the cockroaches over isn't going to make the cockroaches go away. What's going to make the cockroaches go away is I acknowledge that they're there and I do the work required to clean them out. And, you know, the metaphor for that would be if I notice there are thoughts based in hostility or fear, I actively acknowledge what's there. True, honest thinking. You know, there's a thing in my book, I don't know if you've read Why Is This Happening to Me Again, but I talk about the disease of premature positive thinking, pretending things are A-okay when they're not. And what we want to do is honest and appropriate thinking. Gee, there's some cockroaches here. I'm going to clean them out. I'm going to do the forgiveness work to remove those things. That would be my offering.
Okay.
And I think that would tie in somewhat with Holmes's idea of affirmative prayer, but you want to be careful that you don't move into the arena of that premature positive thinking, that thinking that all is well when it's not, because that then kind of becomes a cover. Jeannie likes to use an example of, gee, we've got a garbage can or a compost pile, you know, container in the kitchen, and it's starting to get stinky, but we don't want to deal with that stink, so what we do is we just take a little air freshener and spray on it. Tomorrow we have to spray it twice, and the next day we have to spray it 3 times. Sooner or later we got to deal with what's in the compost bucket. And the same way, if there's any form of hostility or fear within our genes, within our cultural training, within our family system, we need to own it, and we need to face it square on and process through it. And that's what the forgiveness, the reality management worksheet's designed to do.
Okay, so whatever is it appropriate to call it the shadow?
Yes, that's exactly what it is, the shadow, yes.
Or the ego, or the archetype, or the false self, or the not truth. So
many different
that has to be recognized and dealt with.
Devil self, the devil self. It's been given lots of different names.
Okay.
And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, right at this juncture, Carl Jung has a really powerful thought for us. And recognizing that the constructs of our mind, the pictures our minds paint for us, especially the ones based in negativity, the pictures that the mind paints for us are painted quite literally on the inside of our eyeballs. We're not looking outside of ourselves with our eyes. We're looking at a reflection of what there is within us. And what Jung says, those who look without. So if I keep looking at what my eyes are showing me, the projection of my own denied and dissociated trauma or pain, if I keep looking at that, what Jung says is those who look without dream. We think we're looking out there. People are stuck in a dream. Those who look within awaken. And what the forgiveness process does is it, a la first century Aramaic Yeshua, is it collapses the dream. It collapses the projection from the mind of that which is within me that I don't want to deal with, so I make pictures of other people out of it. When I apply the forgiveness process, it dissolves, literally, those energetic patterns. And that's the whole objective of forgiveness. And when I use it, then what happens is I get to awaken instead of stay stuck in that dream of, of course, the dream for most everybody is it's somebody else's fault.
Of course.
And I can even do that blame game with myself. It's my fault. Well, it's my responsibility, but no, it's not my fault. It's just an energy that's here. Gee, maybe I set this up when I was 2, so maybe it is my fault. Maybe I made an error. It is an error. And now I'm about bringing in the sun, bringing in the active presence of love, and collapsing that so that the root of it is exposed to the presence of love and dissolves, is forgiven from my structure, literally, from my genes, from my bloodline.
God, just hearing that feels so good. Okay. Thank you for that. Next question. I attended my first quote-unquote shadow workshop back in, I think, 2014, 2015. It was a Debbie Ford. And in that workshop, we were instructed to, I'm looking at a list of all the things that I wrote down that are wrong with all the people in my life.
Right. all the reflections of your shadow. Okay, good.
Yes,
good to have that list.
Yes.
That can be beneficial.
Oh my gosh, it's pages. And so would it be, can I just, without having a circumstance, go through these characteristics, qualities, or traits that I know are in me, and probably in every human, and do a worksheet on just the trait without a situation? Or what would be the appropriate worksheet for that?
It depends what comes to mind. I mean, it sounds like that exercise was very much like what we do with mind shifters. And if you've done any of our mind shifter work, a mind shifter is a thought about an issue in my life around which I have negative thoughts, and through resonance is the opportunity to surface, process, and work through or release those negative thoughts. So if you've got that list, you could take the first one that comes up, and maybe you've put that to some person in your life, or maybe you put that particular characteristic, whatever it is, on yourself, And so my take would be the most appropriate thing to do with that would be to do a worksheet where whoever that was about, whoever the object of attention of that is, would be number 1C. So you'd start the worksheet out, I, Michael, who am love, am feeling whatever the emotion is, and then getting down to number 1C, name that person and the situation, and then recognize that what...
Go ahead.
Okay, so you got that so far? So then when you get to number 1C, I name whoever my mind thinks that's about. Now I know it's really about me. I've been in the dream of projecting this onto them. So now what I want to do is I want to determine what it is in me that I drive that false picture with, and it's always a goal. And so I look at what's the goal in that situation where this characteristic showed up, you know, projected into my brain image of that person. What's the goal I held for them? And so let's say it was someone who shows up, you know, angry and rageful. And so now I'm looking at, here was, you know, Aunt Jane, and she was always angry and rageful when I was a kid. What did I want from her? Well, there could be a variety of things that a child, let's say a 5-year-old child looking at, you know, Aunt Jane in rage, the child might have wanted acknowledgement from Aunt Jane, loving acknowledgement. That would be one possible goal in that situation, so that would be the worksheet you use. The child might have wanted Aunt Jane to be loving to herself, might have had enough awareness to see what Aunt Jane was doing to herself. So the goal in the child's mind might have been for Aunt Jane to be loving to herself. It might have been for Aunt Jane to be loving to her. It might have been for Aunt Jane to speak gently about, you know, the person she was raging at. You know, there could be a wide variety of worksheets involved in any given situation. And so the more precisely you can identify in that circumstance what it is that you wanted, you know, if you were to verbalize, in this situation here, I remember I was 5 years old, and we were at a family gathering, and there was my mother over there, and Aunt Jane is raging at Mother. What would the 5-year-old child have wanted Aunt Jane? What would be the ideal outcome in that situation? That's the best way I know to determine what the goal is. And so that's what would go in step 3 in the worksheet. There's the goal. And the reason I want to, you know, identify that goal, if you remember, we've talked about the Harvard research that shows that in a time frame where they can, you know, they've got somebody hooked up to electrodes and they're measuring brain cell firings. In the time frame where they can measure 10,000 brain cells firing off, literally 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity, what they determined was in that same time frame, which is about 1/10 of a second, the conscious awareness was made up of about 9 bits of data, a little tiny fragment of what was going on overall within the mind. And if, in fact, in a situation where there are 10,000 brain cells firing, I'm only seeing my 9 bits of data, obviously something in me has determined which 9 bits of data I'm going to be looking at. And that's the goal. And when I look at that goal, and then I change that goal, I shift that goal by canceling it, then I collapse the construct of my mind made out of that pained shadow part. When that picture, that construct collapses, it collapses in on its own root. And at that instant, I have access to my shadow directly. A minute ago, I was projecting my shadow into my brain's image of Aunt Jane. But now that I've canceled the goal that I held for Aunt Jane, and to me this is just such a brilliant piece of information that Yeshua offered us 2,000 years ago. It's like, how did he ever come up with that one? But when I cancel that goal, the driver that determines that this 9 bits of my shadow will be used to build my brain's image of Aunt Jane, and I can cancel that. And if you imagine, it's not a very nice image, but it's one that everybody's aware of, so I use it all the time. Everybody remembers watching the Twin Towers go down on 9/11, and that huge building just dropped into its own footprint. The perceptual constructs of the mind, when the goal that elicits those constructs is canceled, then that whole structure, just like that building, drops into its own footprint. And that's when you got access to your unconscious, or what was called by Jung, the shadow. And when I bring the shadow forward to conscious awareness, in the presence of active love, now the sun is shining on the shadow content, and it dissolves. There's a great, if you listen to the description in the Course in Miracles, it's really powerful. And I've actually never seen anybody in 40 plus years of working with the Course that has understood that this is how forgiveness is done out of the Course. I didn't understand it out of using it or finding it in the Course. I first understood it from the first century Aramaic Yeshua. Then I can remember the day that I read that in the book. It's like, oh my God, there's forgiveness. And what it says is, let go all the things you think you want, i.e. cancel your goal. Your trifling treasure, it refers to the goal as a trifling treasure, put away, and leave a clean and open space within your mind. Collapse the thing that's filling the 9-bit mind and allow what's underneath it to come forward. Your trifling treasure put away, leave a clean and open space within your mind where the active presence of love can shine on the shadow and dissolve it. That's forgiveness.
Okay.
Took me 35 years to understand that from teaching the first century forgiveness process of Yeshua.
Wow.
And I certainly understand why the whole world, especially based in the Greeks, told us, no, you let other people off the hook because of what you're feeling inside of you. You forgive them for your pain. Like, no, forgiveness has got nothing to do with letting them off the hook. It is a very active process by which I collapse my own pained perception that is just a reflection of my own shadow. I bring my own shadow to the presence of love, and in the presence of love, the shadow dissolves. And that's forgiveness. So each of those situations you have on your list, I'd look at who the person was that was involved when you originally did the list. And maybe there are more present objects of attention in your life. It sounds like it was several years ago you did that. Perhaps there are more present objects of attention in your life, and you might do worksheets on both the person who's in that original thing and the person who played it out with you yesterday, or the person that you fear is going to play it out with you tomorrow. Each of those can be a perfectly appropriate place to do the forgiveness process.
Okay.
And that's how the shadows dissolved.
Okay, very, very helpful. I have one more thing that I want to get your feedback on.
And I'm going to ask Jeannie, Jeannie, if you'd make a note of her phone number, and we'll send you a link. There's actually a PowerPoint presentation that a student of mine created for us that explains that whole process. So I'll get Jeannie to send you a link to that, and I think that'll just reinforce everything that we're talking about. And I'm sure Jeannie's already put it in the notes as well. So, but go ahead.
Wonderful. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were talking about survivor's guilt from parental suicide. And it was something that I hadn't ever heard about. And what came up was, it's okay for me to have a beautiful and happy life. And that just really resonated with me. So I don't know what the negative belief is or the thought that is underneath that. I guess it would be the opposite of that. That
well, let me ask you a question.
Might be the cause of the chronic pain.
That very likely could be the cause of the chronic pain. But question, so have you experienced a parental suicide?
Yes.
Okay. So breathing with you, holding a space of love for that healing, that's got to be a difficult place to be. And are you familiar with the Mind Shifter tool?
Yes.
Okay, so you've used it where you put the Mind Shifter on the left side of the page, write it, and then let everything that comes up on the other side just pour out on the page?
Yes, but I haven't been consistent with it.
Okay. Okay, so can I offer you a Mind Shifter then?
Please do.
Okay, so if you got a pen ready, was it your mom or your dad that left?
Mother.
Mother, okay. So whatever you called your mom, I'd start the Mind Shifter out with that. If it was mom, mother, whatever your favorite name was for her.
Okay.
Supports and approves of me. Living a delightful, fulfilling life.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff coming up around that.
Yeah, so we'll breathe with you on that.
All of that I thank you for, and that is all that I have right now at the moment.
Okay, well, we'll be breathing with you and holding the space as you write that and that all that process through. And, you know, it can be appropriate as well. I don't know how much you know about what was going on for your mom at that point, but, you know, you can also do a worksheet for her as though you were her and what she was facing and dealing with. And as you do that worksheet, dedicating energetically it to her healing, you can open the space for her in her soul essence to be freed of that energy.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. All right, I'm complete.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Terry. Okay, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. Holding the space, breathing deeply. And thank everybody in the community for being the space and holding the space for all the different kinds of healing that comes forward. Everyone who participates in the show. And Miss Jeannie, we're down to about 2 or 3 minutes, I think.
We do have another hand.
Well, let's see how quickly we can get a question in, and maybe we can just get something started that we can continue with tomorrow.
Okay, it's Terry Bowling, 336.
Hey, guys.
Hey there, Terry Bowling. Welcome, sir. How can we honor you today?
My goal here was just to offer the words just aren't big enough. Just thanks to you and Jeannie and everything that's been done around this work for so long. And it's like, even as familiar as I am, it still just amazes me, like with the worksheet that Jeannie helped me do. The last 2 days, over purpose. Oh my gosh, that tool was laying there, but of course I couldn't see it myself. I needed help to see what was right there available for me. And the way that Jeannie offered it and presented it and worked with me was priceless. And it was so helpful to have the support and the way that she laid it out and evaluated me. It's like, wow, this is good stuff. Thank you, Jeannie. That was really a powerful exercise. And, extremely valuable and helpful for me.
You are welcome and deserving.
Well, that was just over the top. It was like, wow, I was sitting in awe for quite a while afterwards. It's like, man, that was a beautiful exercise. And in the 12-step rooms, they talk about the therapeutic value of one addict helping another. But I've modified that slightly as one of my mottos. It's the therapeutic value of one human helping another is without parallel. There's nothing else like it on the face of this earth. When two people come together to support each other, it's where it's at.
For sure.
You guys are the epitome of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think there was a fellow, Harry, about 2,000 years ago that said something like, when two or more are gathered in the name of healing.
Exactly.
I'm with you, right on. That's it. That's what it takes.
Yep.
Nothing like a little support from our friends.
Like it.
Yeah.
Nothing else like it. Absolutely nothing. Thank you, guys.
All right, Terry. Blessings.